Good morning. We are very excited to be here with you today. Like she said, my name is Cassidy Flo, and I am a early childhood education major. I'm a senior this year. I'll graduate in December.
And my name is Kasey Porr. I'm a freshman secondary education major here at LC.
And we have a lovely PowerPoint that should be up eventually. Yeah? Okay. All right. Well, we want to share our research about implementing assessment for learning strategies in the classroom. Now, to give a little background information, assessment for learning is formerly and most recognized as formative assessment. And those are just a collection of strategies that teachers and students can both use to monitor their growth and assess their learning. And so we used a book by Chapoy that defined assessment for learning as formal and informal processes teachers and students use to gather evidence for purpose of improving learning. And teachers use these strategies not only to assess their students, but also to guide their instruction. These are the strategies that help focus the instruction and tailor the direct learning to what the students need, so they're not teaching such broad ideas, and they're focusing on their students. So we have all of these strategies, and a few of those, just to kind of give you an idea of what those strategies are. We use I can statements, which are learning targets so that the students know exactly where they should be at the end of the day or the week or the unit. We have traffic lighting, which is where students can raise up a card, a red, yellow, or green card, to show the teacher, I understand this, I'm a little iffy on this, or I don't understand this at all. And we also use strong and weak work, so the teacher can sit with a student and show the student one of their stronger pieces, and they can sit together and they can identify what makes it a strong piece. And they can also show them a weaker piece, and they can sit together and identify the factors that made that a weaker piece. Unfortunately, we have these research-based strategies that we know work, and they know that this increases student achievement. But for some reason, teachers aren't using these. And as some other researchers found, despite the increase of interest in formative assessment or assessment for learning strategies and related professional development opportunities, a disconnect remains between the practice and what they learn by the teachers. And we wanted to know where that happened. And we proposed that the disconnect is because of the design of modern professional developments. And I've never been a teacher yet, hopefully someday, but from the research that I've done and from what I've heard from teachers that are in the classrooms right now, professional developments look a little something like this. And of course, this is a general statement. Not every professional development looks like this, but for the most part, an expert will come in and facilitate a professional development and give the teachers information about strategies or practices that they should be using without having any idea about the context of each teacher in each school. And the expert will come in one time. There's no follow-up. There's not really any accountability. The teachers are required to go to these. But there's no accountability. So there's no room for failure, and there's no really room for success because they have no proof that they're actually implementing the strategies that are being taught. And school districts and the state, they are pouring so much money into these professional developments, and they're not as effective as they could be. So Thomas Guskey, who is an expert in analysis design, said that high-quality professional development is a central component in nearly every modern proposal for improving education. And we find that to be true even today. And that's really where our research started. One of our mentors was asked to facilitate a professional development in a West Texas elementary school. And she designed a sustained, personalized professional development, or a PPD. And what that consisted of is 7 full, non-consecutive days of a professional development. And the teachers were given certain strategies, and they were asked to implement the strategies in their classroom and then bring back proof that they did that. And that's really a really key component of that, because that gives the teachers some accountability to make sure that they're actually implementing the strategies. And that also gives us more data. And so the teachers were asked to set goals about how they wanted to implement these strategies, and for which lessons and for which students, etc. And so they were also asked to collaborate with teachers from their grade level, their peers. And so really that collaborative learning was really important to make sure that not only was the administration holding the teachers accountable, but the teachers themselves were holding each other accountable. And so, as you can see on our little right here, never used a pointer before, it's exciting. This is our piece right here. And as you can see, our piece is one small part of a much larger project that will take years to finish. And what we thought is that because of these sustained professional developments, the teacher motivation would increase because of the accountability that was happening, which would then in turn create effective use of strategies in the classroom, which would then lead to, these two are kind of very, very related, improved student achievement and increased student knowledge in certain content areas. And so, as you can see, our piece is one piece, and we would love to continue researching this, and we have a team that's been put together that is researching all this. And so that leads us to our question, which is there a correlation between the teacher motivation and implementing these assessment for learning, or AFL, strategies in the classroom? Because, as we said, they're just not doing it, and we wanted to know where the motivation was from these teachers. So to figure this out, we created a survey using Qualtrics, using the self-determination theory, which essentially is a theory that measures human motivation based on extrinsic and intrinsic factors in the world around them. And so we created a survey and sent that to the administration of our elementary school that we worked with. And the administration sent it to the 25 teachers. My partner is going to tell you a little bit more about our survey.
So our survey consisted of a total, I believe it was like 39 questions. One of the first things we asked our teachers was a little bit of demographics. We wanted to know how long these teachers had been teaching, to kind of maybe help us answer some of the questions that would come from the survey when we received it back. The rest of the questions were then used on a Likert scale to answer the questions. And the second question we asked, of these AFL strategies, or assessment for learning strategies that you've been taught, like I can statements and traffic lighting, are you using them now more that you've gone through this development, or are you using them same or just not as much? The rest of the questions were then consisted of 6 different subscales that were taken from the Intrinsic Motivation Database, which is a validated question database used to determine the self-determination theory. We looked at interest and enjoyment. We wanted to know if the teachers were interested in implementing these strategies, if they enjoyed implementing them in the classroom, or if it was just another requirement by the administration. We wanted to know if they put a lot of effort and importance into it. Was it important for them to do well at this? Did they put a lot of effort into implementing these strategies, or if they just, did it when they had to or last minute? We also looked at pressure and tension, specifically at tension. We wanted to know, were these teachers stressed out implementing these strategies, or were they felt pretty confident and calm about it when they were doing that? Also looking at perceived competence, we wanted to know, did the teachers feel like they could do it, knew what they were doing, or if they felt like they were struggling in some areas and needed additional help. We also looked at perceived choice. The personalized development they went through was not a choice. The administration required them to do this. But implementing the strategies and how they implemented and when they implemented was a choice as long as they brought back evidence that they had done this. And finally, we also looked at value and usefulness. We wanted to know, did they value these strategies? Did they find them useful in the classroom? Or again, was it just something else they were required? Of the 25 teachers we sent out the survey to, 21 responded, making this an excellent pilot survey. And so whenever we got all our answers back, we took the overall means of each subscale, and we found that overall, effort at a 5.65 and value at a 5.76 were the highest indicators in the overall subscales. But we wanted to know more than that. So we then ran a bunch of different statistics, and we looked at the overall subscales to the use of strategies. It's important here to note that interest is a self-report of motivation, and they can be used interchangeably, and we do in this. We found that overall of the subscales, interest was the highest factor. Looking at our Pearson's R, it accounted for 19% as a reason as to why these teachers were implementing the strategies. We also looked at a correlation looking for anything 0.4 and above, and we found that when it came to interest or motivation and comparing it to the strategies, they were highly correlated. We also ran a linear regression, and looking at that, we wanted anything 0.05 and below to be statistically significant. And again, we found that interest or motivation was a high predictor. So our teachers who are motivated are more likely to implement these strategies. But we didn't just stop there. We then took each different subscales of the 5 that were left and compared them to that interest or motivation subscale. And we found that overwhelmingly, choice was one of the biggest predictors. On our Pearson's R, it accounts for 31% of a reason as to why our teachers are feeling motivated. Looking at our correlation, again, 0.4 or any above, it almost hit a 0.6 at a 0.55, meaning it was highly correlated. In our linear regression that we ran, we also found that it too was below a 0.05, making it highly statistically significant. Here's just an overview of all the statistics we ran. This is our subscales on interest, and you'll see that, again, perceived choice, which we said was the biggest, was statistically significant. But a close second was that value and usefulness. They were, it was 37, almost a 0.4 at a 0.37 on our correlation, meaning it was almost correlated. On our Pearson's R, it accounts for 14% as to why our teachers are motivated, and it was close to being statistically significant. Here's an overview of what we did for our subscales on our AFL strategies. And again, interest or motivation was our highest one, but a close second was that perceived confidence. We found that our teachers, it was almost highly correlated again at the 0.39. It accounted for 15% as to why our teachers were using the strategies, and it was at a 0.05, almost below on a very statistically significant. So we found that interest and competence, if the teachers are motivated to do it and found that they were confident in what they were doing, they were implementing these strategies. Overall, perceived choice by teachers serves as a significant predictor of intrinsic motivation, and our teachers who are significantly motivated are more likely to implement these strategies in their classroom.
So what does that all mean? That's a lot of numbers and a lot of words, and if you're not an education major, that doesn't really mean a whole lot. So we saw that choice is huge, and I think that across disciplines, choice is huge. If you have a choice about what to learn or how to learn it, you're going to be more motivated to learn about something. And so we want to propose that the professional developments need to be facilitated and designed to give teachers that freedom of choice. Of course, the professional developments are mandatory and are required by teachers to go, but when they have choices about the research-based strategies that are learned in the professional development, they're more highly motivated to implement the strategies in their classroom. When they work in their own context and when they have that choice about how it's going to work in their own classroom with their own students, again, they're going to be more motivated. And teachers are the gatekeepers of learning. And so if a teacher has a negative attitude about learning and about the content that she's teaching, the students are going to start to mirror that negative attitude. So we need to empower our teachers by giving them a choice about how to use the strategies in their classroom. Of course, like we showed you in the beginning slides, our piece is just one small piece of a much larger project, and further research has to be done about how to facilitate and create this professional development that gives teachers that choice. But we wanted to give this information to people who matter and people who can do something about this. We presented this research to the Amarillo School Board a couple weeks ago, and the curriculum directors and the school board members and the teachers, they loved this, and they all understood that this means something to the education world. And so we just really thank you for being here today and letting us share what feels like our life's work with you.
A few minutes for questions. Do you have questions for our scholars?
If you were able to take this one step further, you can't because you're going to be teaching. But if you were able to take it one step further, where would you go? What would be your next step?
Well, the ultimate goal is raising student achievement. And so, again, we want to create that professional development that gives teachers that choice. And we need to know which strategies are working within the context of the specific schools. And so, of course, we would love to go back into our school. Unfortunately, we are not the facilitators of the professional development, and so we have to sort of wait until someone contacts our mentor to facilitate a professional development. But we would like to create and design a professional development that gives teachers that freedom of choice.
I have a question about what would you say to a freshman who has just arrived to LCU and who really would like to do some sort of research and looks at you right now and is thinking, my goodness, I wish I could do something like that, but I'm afraid because I have no idea how to go about it. What would you recommend them to do? What would be the starting point?
Funny, I am a freshman, so whenever I was first asked to join this group, I will admit I had a lot of apprehensions about it. I did research in high school, but nothing to this scale. I'd never done anything like this. And so for a freshman who is thinking about doing research like this, talk to your mentors. If someone is, inviting you to work with it, give it a chance. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay, but at least you have that opportunity. Being a freshman and getting to go to NCUR with this research was amazing. It was an eye-opener for me, and I hope to continue doing research. So just being able to talk to someone about the research that you're doing, getting an idea of what's going on in the classrooms or getting an idea of what's going on in your research really can be a good motivation factor for you to go and start all this research like we did.
And I'm a senior, so I wish I had started as a freshman. But going to the Scholars Colloquium every year was it was a little overwhelming. There were so many great presentations and posters and everything, but we wanted to show you guys and NCUR and everybody that research is not just for the sciences. It's not just for one discipline. You can research as an educator, you can research as religious studies, you can research wherever you are. Just find something that you're passionate about and pursue that with everything that you are. And that's what NCUR really taught us was there are 4,000 students across the nation that were accepted to this conference, and they're all researching whatever is passion, whatever fuels their fire. And so that's what I would say to a freshman is learn how to prioritize and you're good to go.
Did you see any trends in your results based on years of teaching?
We did see a couple of trends. Of course, when you have teachers that have more experience, they've already kind of found what works for them in their classroom. And the newer teachers are still trying to use what they're learning and what they've learned through their education. And so that was one thing that we really wanted to include, but sort of ran out of time. But we did see a significant trend that the younger teachers, the teachers with a little bit less experience, were implementing more strategies because they're still kind of writing their script of what is going to work in their classroom.
Where, you went to the Amarillo School Board, right?
Yes, sir.
And so what level is all of this development decided? And so where would you go next to affect change in how development is handled?
Well, really the school board was our highest priority because they're the ones that sit and write the professional developments and call in facilitators, et cetera. Our school was the one that reached out to our mentor. And so sometimes it's at a school level and sometimes it's at a school board district level. But when we presented in Amarillo, we had the superintendent there, we had school board members there, we had curriculum directors there, we had actual teachers that were in the classroom, and we also had cluster directors. And so we tried to reach everybody to see who could use our research the best.
Give me an example of how to implement choice through professional development.
How to implement the strategies or how to...
No, the choices itself. Like
Okay.
they're happier about it if they're given the choice.
Right.
I'm assuming if you do professional development over a certain learning style, and then you ask them to go and implement the learning style, how is that getting the choice? So I think you're doing something different than that. I'm just trying to understand what it is you're doing.
Whenever our mentor would come in and do the facilitating, she didn't just give one at a time, she gave like 3 or 4. And that choice was, okay, which one sounded the most interesting to me? How do I think, does it apply? Because we had kindergarten teachers who were going, this does not apply to my study. It won't work in my classroom. And so we gave the teachers choices, it's a broad spectrum. We had kinder through 5th, and they all got to look and just pick and choose of the sections that they were looking at.